All right, what's going on, Legion fans? Welcome to another Comic Correction. Today, we are tackling a movie that we've been talking about doing on Patreon for a while, and it was actually voted on by one of our guests today. So we have a guest here today. This is our friend Mike Nichols.
Mike
Hey, Mike.
Nichols!
Hey.
How's it going?
Doing well.
You ready to hit this movie? You ready to do it?
September.
Yeah, right. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been on the back burner.
It's been it took a back seat to the Skywalker, the Star Wars,
the Star Wars
correction
correction.
saga.
Had
Yeah.
Mandalorian to do too.
We had, that was in
and
there.
That was worth
That was in there.
listening to. So yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had a lot going on. So, but we are getting to it now. We are excited for it because, man, this is a
You better watch
it's
your
a hard
mouth.
one.
You better watch it. you better put some respect on this.
Well, I don't.
All right.
I will put as much respect as it deserves, and it deserves very little. I'm sorry. I know. You guys
Better-
have a soft spot for one.
So what are we getting
All right.
into?
All right. Well, okay. So today we are correcting not the first Ghost Rider, the second Ghost Rider, Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance.
And you can't call it a sequel. You can't
Well,
you
you
can't
can't.
call it a comeback.
Well, I think they kind of wanted it to be, but
They attempted for it to be a comeback, but
it was terrible.
didn't happen.
It didn't happen. It was
No.
it was a worse reception than the first.
Exactly.
But yeah, well, we'll see what we do. All right, so let's as always, we're going to jump into our Carnage Report, get things kicked off, and then we'll jump into our correction. All right, so Carnage Report, we always jump into how much money it made, the casting, and the comic roots that it comes from. So we're looking at budget right now, and to give you guys a little bit of a framework, so Ghost Rider 1 had a budget of $110 million. And it made $228 million.
That's a legit
right? So that's
turnaround.
not bad. Yeah.
Okay.
We want to see movies get to about double of their budget, so that way they can make some profit on it.
Right. Right.
And this did it. So that was pretty good. But then they waited almost 5 years before making a second movie. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, you
The
do.
first
You
sign
you
that
you
this
do
is
know
not a
why.
good movie.
Oh yeah. I
You
do
know why they waited 5 years
Yeah.
to make another one.
Yeah, because the the audience score and the critic score were really low on the first movie. But and maybe Nick Cage was too busy, buying up castles, because that's like his favorite pastime.
He had at least 30 to 40 movies in that time span between there.
Yeah. In 5
At
years, that sounds
least.
about right.
Yeah, 30 to
movies,
40.
6 per year.
Yeah,
sounds like
exactly.
a good number.
We might be lowballing it there,
We
actually.
might be, yeah, and like 90% of them were probably made for TV and never saw the light of day.
Oh,
but
I
they
don't know
help
about
keep
that,
they
sir.
help keep the lights on in his castles, I guess. So anyway, so that's our first Ghost Rider. Second Ghost Rider came in. They didn't have much faith in it because instead of $110 million budget, they only gave it a $57 million budget.
That is a huge cut.
Yeah,
That is almost a
I don't-
50% cut on budget.
Yeah. So obviously they weren't spending their money on Nicolas Cage.
No, well,
Well,
hey,
Well,
he garners a heck of a salary, sir.
I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so at 57, and surprisingly, even though the critics' review and everything, and we'll get to that in a minute, was so low, it made $132 million. So
That's actually
it actually made a little bit more, I think, than the first
well,
one.
Not in terms of gross, but it made
No.
more in terms of like when you look at it
From
from
the
a
budget.
percent
Yeah,
comparison.
yeah.
and look at it compared to the budget.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so, I mean, that's what it is. And-
Although, but that is almost $100 million drop on
On the
in
budget.
terms of gross. No. In terms
Oh,
of
in
gross
how much
profit
money they made,
on
yeah.
how much it made, it's almost
Yeah.
$100 million
Right.
drop.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It was really bad. Right.
I don't know what you're calling that.
Rotten Tomatoes, 18% for critics. So they
I'm
gave it an
surprised it's that
18%.
high. I'm surprised it's that
Yeah,
high.
18%.
So I went to Amazon to watch it.
Oh yeah,
Same.
I did
yeah,
too.
Yeah,
me
that's
too.
where I watched
It
it.
has 4.5 stars on 4,500 reviews.
What?
4.5 stars. Yeah.
No, you know what?
That is insane.
Here's how many reviews?
4,500.
4,500.
4,500 and it's got a
Okay.
4.5 star.
400. It's
Okay, so 4,499 of those were Nick Cage. He just went in there and just amped it up. I'm betting that's what it is. All right, well, 18%. Audience gave it a 31%.
I can't.
So,
It's
both
actually
rotten,
getting
but-
rated better than the first one. And I got to tell you, I just having seen both,
Oh.
the first one
first one's
is
better. Yeah, it
than
is.
the second.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
also, here's the other funny thing. We could run the numbers on this, but
Yeah.
honestly, it also only has a 96-minute runtime
Yeah,
with
it's
about
super
10
short.
minutes worth of credits.
Yes,
So
super
you're
short.
talking about 86 minutes roughly. So an hour and 25 minutes.
Super
so
short.
How much is it making per minute compared to the first one too?
It doesn't matter.
Well, they didn't have a budget to make it any longer.
That's true.
That's true. They only had
86 minutes. So.
I wonder if they cut out certain parts of the storyline because they were just like, we don't have any more time, we don't have any more money, we got to just stop here.
Which story?
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah, he's right. He's totally right. All right, well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Our cast, Nick Cage returns.
Yes, he does.
That's it.
All day.
Everybody else is new. There was a recast in there. So Rourke is recast by Ciaran. I think it's Ciaran. Ciaran Hans replaces Peter Fonda, and now
Not a good replacement.
no, he was all right, but
He's all right, but I mean,
Peter Fonda
It's
did
Peter
a good
Fonda.
job. Yeah, Peter Fonda did a good job, but it's weird, and when I say it's a kind of a recast, it's because Peter Fonda played Mephistopheles.
Yes.
They used his full name. He goes as Mephisto normally in the comics, and so he played the devil figure. But then Ciaran Hans plays Rourke, who is also the devil figure.
Yeah.
And in the comics, they're interchangeable. So Rourke and
well,
Mephisto,
and they even mention that at
they're all
one
the
point in the
same.
movie. They say
He
the
goes by
devil
lots of
goes by
names.
many names.
and they show lots of people.
Right.
Yeah.
He can go into different bodies too.
Right,
So
exactly
that
right.
can explain some of the difference in
Right, that why
A
it's
little
not-
bit, a little bit, because you have to remember, and this is where we'll get into this in a minute, but with this recasting, they also changed the actual
The origin,
storyline,
yeah.
the origin,
Yeah.
slightly,
Yeah.
despite not changing the main character.
Yeah, yeah. It's a mess. Ray Carrigan,
Because
is
you
a-
know that's just off the bat, that's setting it up for success.
well,
That's going to be great.
they were putting all their eggs in the basket with Nick Cage.
Nick
They said
Cage.
Nick Cage is there.
Well,
it's
you
gonna
got to
be
put all
good.
your eggs in the Nick Cage basket.
Nick
That is a
Cage,
good
you don't
basket
need
to be in.
anybody else. It's
Yeah.
just-
You
you're
don't.
set
You
movie.
don't.
I've heard Nick Cage requires at least a dozen eggs to fulfill a movie contract.
Uh,
All right.
Always.
It's
Part of his rider.
So Johnny Whitworth comes in as Ray Carrigan, who is like the villain that's not the devil.
He's not the big bad.
He's not the
The
big
henchman.
bad, but he's
Yeah.
still
The
he's
main
kind.
henchman.
Yeah, he's the main the main henchman. And I thought he was fine. I thought Johnny Whitworth did.
He wasn't bad.
He did a fine job with what he was given. We don't really get to know who he is or what he is. He most resembles Blackout from the comics.
Yeah.
Who is a villain, a mainstay villain for Ghost Rider, who can decay things. He even looks like him when he kind of takes.
But they
his
don't
form.
call him any name. They just
No.
call him Decay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
And
maybe
that's
they
actually
couldn't-
just his power, not like who he is.
yeah, maybe they couldn't get the rights to the
To
Blackout
Blackout?
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I don't know.
That
But-
could be true.
Yeah.
Which also, then, it's set up for success if you can't get rights to the people that you're actually playing.
Hey, well, that's not. Yeah, hey, look at what MCU did with Wanda and Pietro, right? They didn't have access to Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, the names, but they still made.
Yeah,
a
but this
really
wasn't
good
made by
movie.
Marvel.
I know it was made by what was it, Columbia? Or-
Yeah, something like that.
It was
some
bad.
offshoot.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Anyway, all right. So that's our cast. That's our budget. That's our scores. Now, when it comes to comic source material. Again, the biggest source material that they pull from is Ghostwriter #1, actually, from 1973. And one of the things that I will say about this movie is, at least when it comes to Johnny Blaze and his origin and what he looks like and his powers and what he can do, for the most part, they're pretty legit. They stay pretty good.
The writer and his background
Yeah.
are the saving. I don't want to call it grace of this movie
Yeah.
because that means it would save the movie, but like they're the only thing that's positive about it. Like
Yeah,
they
for sure.
actually stick to his comic origins, and man, he looks great.
Yeah, he looks really good.
The writer
Yeah, the
looks
effects
fantastic.
for
Much
a
better than the
for
first one.
yeah,
for a $57 million budget, they must have spent everything on the
everything
writer.
went into the
And
CGI on
and
this
he looks
thing.
great, and he looks fantastic. And they didn't need anything really else for that. They even bring in Zarathos, the spirit that he embodies him.
Yeah,
kind of gives
they
him
talked
his powers.
into that storyline. The
which was all
angel
part of it. Yeah,
and
Who
how
kind of fell
he
and was deceived
corrupted.
and-
Yeah.
So really, really great. But anyway, so Ghostwriter #1, 1973. The summary for that is Ghost Rider teams up with the Son of Satan, and the Son of Satan's name they were right nail on the head, right, with these names back in the 70s. His name was Damon Hellstrom. Like it's not Damien. It's
Yeah.
Daimon. So as close to demon as you can.
Damon.
Damon. And then
If it's not a sign
Hellstrom.
that he's evil, then I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean, like,
exactly. Well, anyway,
they're just outright
they're naming it.
blatant.
They're naming it. Hey.
Yeah.
Well, so Ghost Rider teams up with the son of Satan, and they end up fighting Satan himself and someone called the Witch Woman, which was not in the movie, but
Not there.
they do fight those people. And then Damon is the son. One difference is Damon is the son of someone called Victoria Wingwright. Instead of the character Nadia that they used in the movie. So a change in the mother's name, and Victoria.
But sticking pretty
Victoria-
darn close to this script and to this storyline.
Yeah, except Victoria from the comics came from Massachusetts. I don't think Nadia was from Massachusetts.
Well, not in any way. The majority of the film is taking place in Turkey,
right, that's what I'm
and
saying. Yeah.
they call it that it's the furthest place from heaven. Is where that site is that the ending takes place in. Like that's where
Yeah.
it's where the devil can essentially be
Yeah.
at his strongest.
We're sorry,
but
Turkey.
Apparently,
We have nothing against Turkey.
apparently there are
The food
in
every
Turkey
place.
they don't have drivers.
yeah.
The scene when
Yeah.
they're on the highway, when he's chasing him down, there's not a single car on the road. Also,
There,
when they're
nobody can drive. Nobody has a vehicle. Everybody's just walking places. Like
yeah.
I mean, I want to move there. No traffic.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, but you have to watch out for Ghost Rider taking over various vehicles and running you off the road.
watch out for or drive towards.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right, so last but not least, I didn't mention this, and I want to make sure I do. Idris Elba is in this movie.
That's and
Really confusing to
no
me.
idea how
Don't
they
know
get
why.
Idris Elba.
No
idea.
He plays a character named Maru, who's a great character. Like, I thought he did fine with it. He's like a drunk monk.
He plays the heck out of this character.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and it's great, but he has no place in the comics. So Maru's not a character from the comics. They didn't retcon anybody. They didn't change anybody. He's just a character they made for this movie and for Idris Elba, which... Funny thing is, he 5 months prior to filming this movie, he filmed the first Thor movie as Heimdall.
Yeah.
And thankfully that took off.
Yeah.
And this didn't.
So he went from Thor to Ghost Rider. He's
Yeah.
supposed to be going up and not down.
Well, at that point,
It was a bumpy ride at that time.
Oh.
He had some ups and downs until he started really taking off.
and Thor hadn't come out yet. So
That's true.
Ghost Rider
That's
was
true.
filmed in November of 2010, and then Thor came out in May of 2011.
Idris
So
Elba is
he wasn't
phenomenal.
sure. Yeah, and I'm really glad that he didn't do Ghost Rider first, and then Marvel just didn't take him.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
really
fair.
glad he did Thor, and it came out
Heimdall's
great,
great.
and he kept going. Yeah,
Yeah.
Heimdall's the best. Yeah. So, all right, that's our Carnage Report. We are going to kick it off into our comic correction. All right, comic correction.
Comic
Here
correction.
we go. As usual, we're
Nothing
gonna,
to correct here, right?
We're done.
We're
Got
done.
it down.
Great movie.
if by no
great
no no
main
if,
character. Great acting.
if by nothing to correct you mean we're just gonna throw it in the garbage can and then
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
how dare I what?
This is Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I know.
You will put some respect on this movie.
I don't think so.
At
He
least respect on Nick Cage. Maybe not the movie, but Nick Cage.
Nick Cage,
The greatest actor of our generation.
songbird of our generation.
no, he's so bad in this
He is
movie.
the greatest.
He also, have you noticed that this has been 4 years, right? Or almost 5. About 4 years when they started filming it.
Yeah.
And man, like he didn't he does not look in superhero shape as he did in the first movie. The first movie, man, he
Age
got
has
cut.
not. Are you
He
saying
got-
age has not treated him well?
I'm saying age has not made him into more of a Marvel
The
hero.
hairline got real hard in
It
it.
got
It
real
got
bad.
real hard. If you
It
didn't
got
notice,
real
he grew.
bad.
He had shorter hair in the first
He
one,
did.
long hair in this one. The long
He
hair
did.
move did
Didn't
not work well for him.
He
I will
loves
say
it,
that.
though. He
He
does the
loves
long
the
hair all
long
the
hair,
time.
and it's not even really long hair. It's almost like a reverse mullet, where it's long in the front, slicked back, and short in the back.
No, it's long and it's long.
It's
in
long
the,
in all the wrong places.
It's long in the back with a mohawk on the top because his widow piece go all the way back. Like he just regardless.
Regardless.
Nick Cage is fine, not as a Marvel hero. I don't think he did so well.
Did
so
you say Nick Cage is fine?
Yeah, he's all right.
Sir, I want to be able to. I'm going to talk to you about something real quick here. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So we'll get
I
into
wanna
the
hear
first
it.
point. What is your first point? Because I've got some. I don't know if we're on the same page here.
Well, listen, we have a point about Nick Cage, so I'll hear your defense
Let's
on that.
start there.
We're gonna
Let's
start
start
there?
with the Nick Cage
All right, all right.
point.
So the first point is I have written down here just Nick Cage.
What
That's
about
it.
him?
The fact that why was he cast again in a Ghostwriter movie?
Okay, so two separate pieces here. First
Yeah.
off, I'm going to address the actual point here. This, I don't know what this film is doing with Nick Cage being brought back
Yeah.
because we don't know what type of film it is because of that.
You got to clarify that.
So let's go to the actual other first point that you had, which
Okay,
is
not a sequel.
we don't know if this
not
is,
a
before we
reboot.
get into this Nick Cage point, is
Why
this
did
a
they make it?
sequel? Is this a reboot? We
Right.
have no idea.
We don't know.
Because
It's not.
the first movie, we know it actually doubled its budget, did fairly well.
Yeah.
They don't come out ever. I went back and I started trying to look at like the news articles of announcing Spirit of Vengeance.
Yeah.
They don't call it reboot. They don't call it spin-off. They don't call
Right.
it a sequel. They call it nothing. It's nonsense. So they bring back Nick Cage, which whenever
Yeah.
you bring back the main character in any movie
Usually
and the
a
same
sequel.
actor, it's
sequel.
usually a sequel.
Right.
Yeah.
You pick up from wherever the last one left off. You have some of the same actors. If you have to recast, you recast some.
Sure.
No one returns other than Nick Cage.
Right, right. And
So
you-
we have no idea.
well,
I
Mike
can't
had
blame him that nobody else wanted to come back.
yeah, well,
After the first Ghostwriter,
it was
wouldn't wanna
bad.
come back,
That's
but-
fair.
But
That
what-
is fair.
yeah, and you had something about what did Peter Fonda
Oh,
as
yeah.
Mephisto?
Yeah, he read like the first 5 pages of the script, and then flat out refused to do it.
Really?
It
Oh
only
my
took him
gosh.
5 pages of the script.
He only made it 5 pages in. I'm surprised he made it 5 pages in.
Wait, there were 5 pages to the script? nothing happened in the movie.
So we have no idea if this is a spin-off, if this is a reboot, if this is a sequel.
right.
And that's the main problem to start. Because you go in and the movie starts following Idris Elba's character.
Yeah, which was great. I
And-
thought he was going to be Ghost Rider.
I thought
I was like, this is great. He's on a motorcycle. He's
that's
super
true.
cool.
There's a lot of similarities. But you get to the actual story of like the Ghost Rider and you're like, okay, we don't need to go and do an origin again. But then they do a flashback in the cartoon animations that they do, and it's not the same story.
Here, you know why?
Why?
I mean, not about the same story. I'm not sure why they did that, but you know why they did all those animated flashbacks? I just figured this out because their budget was $57 million.
True.
And they didn't have enough time or money to get all the principal characters back in to film the flashbacks. So they just did animation.
Oh my gosh.
That's probably
So-
what it was.
That's probably true. So they cover what is the origin of Ghost Rider.
yes.
If you hadn't seen, like, for example, most sequels will do some sort of, like, little synopsis so that if you hadn't seen the previous film, you can get a quick catch-up.
Yeah.
Except they change just enough for you to be like, that is similar, but it's still different if you did see the last movie. And you're like, I still don't know if this is a sequel or if this is a reboot. Watching the entire movie, you never get the answer.
No, never. Yeah.
That is horrible.
Yeah. I agree. This was a terrible movie. This hurt. This hurt to watch. I spent $3 to watch this movie. It was terrible. It wasn't worth $3.
So you don't know right off the bat, and that is a disservice to one of the greatest actors of all time.
I
It
would
was
say,
a shame for him to not at least have writers who would tell him what he's working with here in terms of a sequel or if it's a.
I don't think he cared.
I would disagree. I mean, we know the type of actor that Nick Cage is. He is very method. He gets very deep.
You're laughing at, but it's true. So, I was reading when he goes on the cast and he's the writer, it's all CGI, but he would come up face painted like Baron Saramundi from Live and Let Die. He would come in that face paint.
No,
Method actor.
Method
that's-
acting.
No, that's just that's how his face normally is when he's not required to do a movie. He just wears that face paint all the time.
That might
he
be
just
true.
happened to
Well, I
wander
don't
on
blame-
set,
I
and they were
mean-
like, "Hey, get in the shot.
Yeah,
Get in the shot.
I-
You look great."
I still don't understand. I think that is fantastic acting.
I know. I would say that this is a disservice, but it's a disservice to the great comic book character of Ghost Rider,
True.
and
True.
not necessarily to the
100%,
acting
yeah.
chops of Nicolas.
Well,
Cage.
and it's just you get so little in terms of what is a great storyline, and like the thing about Ghost Rider is he has a simple background.
Yeah.
It's not overly complex. He made a deal with the devil, and he's constantly trying to break away from it and get his soul back. Like
Yeah.
it's really not overly complicated. I mean, the best comparison in like DC is like Lobo, right? Like that's probably the best comparison that we have
yeah,
in
or like
terms of a demon, in terms of like
yeah,
being heck bound.
yeah.
And like
good.
those comparisons, but
I would say it's a amalgamation of Lobo and
Constantine?
And Constantine.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
But you can't actually invest yourself in this film because if you're a major fan of Ghost Rider, you come in and you don't know, is this connected to the original? Is this not connected to the original? Where's Ava Mendes?
Right,
Like, where
right.
did she go? What happened to those characters that I had been looking at from before?
Well, most of the fans are probably like, "I'm glad they're not back."
Because like, yeah, if it's a sequel, they don't mention anything about the other characters. So you have no idea where they went.
Exactly.
They're there, then they're not. Like,
How did he get where he is?
Yeah.
Well,
He went from being on top of the world, and that's what we see in the whole first one. Johnny Blaze
yeah,
being like
Well,
next level superstardom, like Evil Knievel.
I don't.
And now the first time we see him, he's sleeping in a
In Turkey.
warehouse in Turkey.
I don't ever want to defend this movie ever, but they did say that. So they said that they alluded to, and he said it in like his voiceover or something, that the demons were getting so bad that he had to get away from everything he could hurt, and he just was trying to hide from the demon taking over him. So like
Right, and he was
so I
always
get-
on the run to try and keep the demon at bay.
Right, and so I understand why he's in Turkey, because he's trying to go away from everything that he could possibly care about and like hide from it.
But if
So I
you're
get that.
trying to go away, then why would you go to the place that's called the furthest place from heaven? If you're trying to run away, that's not the place you want to run.
He runs right towards where they're right, like
Well, it's
right
the-
towards the heart of darkness.
Well, we never said he was intelligent. He's just trying to get away.
So I mean, that's the big
So,
right
yeah,
off the bat
right.
biggest issue coming
Not a
in.
sequel, not
You
a
have no
reboot.
idea.
Why
Is
are we
this a
making it?
sequel? Is this a remake? Is this a reboot? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And you never get an answer.
and
You never have an idea, and you don't know where they're going to go with this storyline.
the director just says, "But Nick Cage."
Movie.
Yeah, well, that's all they had to say to him. They said, "Hey, Nick Cage." He's like, "Yes," and they're like, "Movie." He's like, "I'm in."
Yeah. He got it.
Let me.
He
put it-
didn't even read the script until he was on set.
Probably
so
not.
like for
He didn't even read the
They
script
have
when he
cue
was
cards
on
for
set.
for
They don't
Fonda,
need to-
yeah, I mean, honestly, for Fonda, like he at least got to read the script. He went through it. He decided it wasn't for him.
No, I
For
don't.
for Nick, he's just good to go.
No, like in light of all of his ridiculously random outbursts in the movie, I don't think he read the script even when he was there.
Does he even have a script?
I don't
he
think
just makes
so.
up whatever lines he wants to at the
Yeah,
time.
And
Yeah.
he should.
It is,
And he should
this-
be allowed
the
to.
script goes down the line, and it's
Exactly
like,
right.
It's like it's like Nadia, and then all the dialogue, and then all it says is Nick Cage. There's a big blank spot.
Yeah.
and it's just time.
I would allow. I mean, with his acting chops, why does he need a script?
because he's not that good of an actor.
Oh my
Debatable.
word, sir!
Debatable.
it's
You
not.
take that back.
You guys both watched.
I
want to
make a point.
Did you
I wanna
watch
make
this
a point.
movie?
I want to make a point here.
Make your point.
Nick Cage. Okay.
Yes.
Nick Cage has won an Oscar.
What do you win an Oscar for?
He won an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas. Best actor. Best actor. First off, you want to hear some people who he's a better actor than because they have not won an Oscar?
would
Let
love
me go
to.
through a line here. Let me go through a few here. Okay?
All right.
That means Nick Cage is a better actor than Bradley Cooper.
William
Dafoe.
Whoa, that's well. It's
Viggo
Will,
Mortensen.
It's Willem
Ooh.
Dafoe. Willem
Dafoe. Sorry, I apologize.
We always get
Vigo
that
should
wrong.
have
so
won
I'm
for
okay.
Aragorn, but that's a different topic.
Will Smith.
True.
Tom Cruise. Jake Gyllenhaal. Sam Elliott. Oh, I want to take that one back. Sam Elliott, my man.
Yeah,
Marlboro Man.
No, all of
Johnny
these.
Depp.
All of these.
Samuel L. Jackson. Ed Harris. Brad Pitt. Angela Bassett. I'm just naming names at this point, but I'm driving home my point.
You're driving home your point that apparently
Nick
the
Cage
Oscars are rigged.
Is one of the greatest actors to portray anyone on screen.
Now, we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one.
Talk to me about how he was not phenomenal.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up a scene, multiple scenes. I'll bring up 2 scenes. I'll give you 2 scenes.
2 scenes. Let's
All right.
go.
First scene, he spends a good amount of time describing how Ghost Rider pees, and then they show him peeing as Ghost Rider, and it's a flamethrower. All
What
right?
is wrong with that?
I mean, it's hilarious, but it's not Ghost Rider. That's not in Ghost Rider's character. It has nothing to do with the story. It's ridiculous. That's one. All right. Now we'll get it. That's just
That sounds like poor writing, but perfect execution.
no. It was poor both. Next is this
You're
was
telling me a man
no. This was
had to somehow get himself in the right mindset to imagine that he was peeing and pretending as if it was a flamethrower
yeah, like a 5-year-old could do that.
While standing on top of a
while
moving
standing
truck.
on top of a moving truck.
But I mean, there is no traffic, so you know it's going a consistent.
Good.
speed,
Yeah,
so-
yeah. But my point being, that is hard to do, sir. You can't just pluck somebody off the street and tell them to do that.
Listen, if this was if this wasn't a family show, I would demonstrate right now. And it would be very simple. All right, so that's one. The second one is if you remember the truck stop scene when he walks in and he's got the food for Satan's child, and he looks over and he sees this wonderful family together, and the dad like
I know this
you
scene.
know the
yeah,
scene?
yeah, yeah.
Of course you know the scene. The dad like ruffles the kid's hair, and Nick Cage gives this really awkward like he's a normal person. He just has a demon inside of him. What is he? How does he not know what? He's just like, what? I guess I should do that, which makes no sense. And then he sits down, and he like rustles the kid's hair, and the kid's like, "What are you doing?" Which is the exact response I had to the whole movie. What is going on? Like I related to that kid more in that moment than the whole movie. And Nick Cage's response is, "There was a bee there, and it was going to sting you in the face."
So it's smush it in your face.
And yeah, and I'm like, are you just referencing your own movies now? Like that's the Wicker Man. Like what do you got the bees? Like what is he? He's just out there. Like I guarantee that wasn't in the script, and he just said it.
So he has taken some content and, as an actor,
Made
has
it
been
worse?
able to do some crossover in his films. And now you want to go see The Wicker Man.
No, I don't.
Impressive.
I don't want to go see the Wicker Man. What I want to see.
Actually, to your point, if I had to argue your side, the scene that is worse than that is when he's
scraping
doing
the door?
interrogation.
The scrape of the door or scrape of the floor, scrape of the door. Like what the heck is that? What's going
No,
on?
I was actually thinking the interrogation.
Okay.
The interrogation where he's holding the rider back.
Oh yeah.
And he's constantly
Getting, like,
popping
the
out,
eye.
and his eyes are popping out.
And most of it's just his
Honestly, to be 100% honest,
eyes.
that was
so
a
bad.
break for Nick Cage because that was just Nick Cage on any day.
Yeah.
Any day, that was just all he does.
This is the problem.
Unfortunately, he broke the fourth wall at that
You
point
didn't know the camera was
as
so
an
rolling.
actor. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that they may have just followed him somewhere on set and was like, Steve, come here. Go over and say something to Nick and just, like, see how he reacts. And then they just, like, plopped a camera up, and that was it. Because they're the
Yeah.
only two people in it. He probably just said something mean to him like, hey, I don't like castles. And like, Nick Cage just went
Yeah.
off, and they
Yeah.
filmed it.
yeah.
And unfortunately, that's
Yeah.
just that they set him up poorly in that because he didn't know he was acting there.
And you
they
know-
didn't know he was on screen. He didn't know he was on screen.
And you know what? It was easy for them because they probably just filmed it with their phones because of how terrible the cinematography was. In
Oh
this
my
movie.
gosh, that
Like,
is
it just-
very
So he had
true.
no idea. They were
Very,
just like,
very
they're
true.
just filming what's going on.
We're just like going
it's a
from
scene.
like speeding
All
up
right.
to slowing down to cutting all around. It
Yeah.
was
It was so
it didn't
bad.
work at any point except for
with the writer.
with the
Yeah,
writer.
You're right. You're
the
totally right
writer
with that. Yeah.
watching him, there were actually creepy moments.
Yeah.
This is a PG-13 movie.
Well, they originally wanted it to be R.
It should have been
They
R.
wanted it to be, but then the studio kind of chickened out.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
the issue is,
It
with
wouldn't
a
have made it
character
better.
with a character like Ryder,
Yeah, it should
It's
be
not a
R.
PG-13
it's
movie.
not a
Like
PG-13
Deadpool.
movie. Exactly.
It's not a PG-13 movie. It's
Right.
Not a PG-13
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
No, you can't do it
100%.
justice. If you're going to do it, you've got to go all the way and you've got to pull the trigger. Pulling
They
back
tried.
on that didn't work.
No, and it rarely does. Like when you try and do that. Same with and we'll be
Exactly.
talking about this later. Wolverine Origins.
Oh yeah.
Like it's just that when you do a Wolverine solo film, it's got to be Logan.
Yeah.
It's got to be like that, or it's just not going to fly. You
Yeah.
can have him pulled back when he's with the other X-Men
yeah.
because he's got his moral compass with him.
Yeah.
But when it's just a Wolverine movie, and same with Ghostwriter, when he's literally got a move called the Penance Stare. Like he's eating people's souls. Like that's one of his powers.
Here's the one thing I will say about the Penance Stare now that you bring that up.
Yeah.
I thought the Penance Stare in the first movie was better than the Penance Stare in the second. The first movie, they burn up. Their eyes burn
yeah.
up in their bodies. They completely fry. He
just turns
stares
into dust
into
in
their
this
soul,
one.
and you actually
Yeah.
see that. In this one,
Yeah.
it's just him awkwardly cocking his head.
Yeah.
Time
yeah. Well, that's just Nick Cage again.
yeah, and then
He's got lots of ticks.
it was just him awkwardly cocking his head and then being like, oh, oh.
But it's because they spent all the money on the actual rider again, which looked great. I
Right,
mean,
Ryder looked great, but at
All right.
certain points, the Ryder just has a tick.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to we hit our first two major points.
Yeah.
This one, I want to let Mike go first on this and have him just kind of tell us some observations he had about the plot and just the
Sure.
story itself. Because
Yeah.
our third thing I have written down here is that the plot exists, right? So they do have a plot. It's Satan has a kid. The kid exists and Satan wants him. We got to keep the kid away from Satan and stop Satan. So that's a fine Ghost Rider plot. That's okay. I'm not mad about that. But the problem is there is zero storytelling to actually tie any of that together to make an actual story. And we see it in the disjointed, just kind of random, bizarre inconsistencies, discrepancies, right? Things happen in one way at the beginning of the movie and then not at the end of the movie, and characters have different parameters. We talk about this all the time on Legion.
Yeah.
Parameters are so important.
Yes.
And they've got skewed parameters. It's riddled. So we can stay in that for ages, and we won't because we don't want another hour and a half episode that I've got to cut down.
That'll be longer than the actual movie itself.
Oh,
That was, yeah.
yeah, right. So we don't want that. So let's just pick a few of our favorites. But Mike, what were some of the inconsistencies or problems you saw in the plot?
I think
Before that, real quick, Matt Damon. You want to add to that? He doesn't have an
Matt-
Oscar.
Oh, I was like, Matt Damon. Listen,
I'm just going to pepper some in here along the way. Go ahead, Mr. Nichols.
I think the biggest thing was the inconsistency with the damage that he takes. So
yeah.
in the first fight, he gets shot by the machine guns or the slug throwers, as they call them, which it's a shotgun. Why are you calling it that? And then he gets hit by 2 grenades from
Yeah.
and gets injured. He gets knocked out and ends up in the hospital.
right.
Makes sense. No problem with that. Until later, when the one guy fires an entire machine gun clip into his mouth. So the next day, he should not be able to talk.
Right.
Because that damage that he got from the first fight, he can take damage. That
Yeah.
should affect his mouth.
Or at least
But-
need a lozenge.
Yeah.
We should address in some way that he could shows up with a neck brace afterwards, like something along those
yeah.
lines. I would have loved that.
He's draining cough syrup.
Yeah.
But the bigger thing is, at the end fight, he gets 2 javelin missiles to destroy an entire tank that does nothing.
They call them bunker busters.
Right.
Yeah.
A grenade will knock you out, put you in the hospital, but 2 javelin missiles, nothing happens to them.
No problem.
Yeah. And again, we just pick one, right? Like we would have been fine with either parameter.
Right.
So either have these create lasting injuries for him that he has
Yep.
to heal from,
Yep.
which he obviously heals faster than most people.
Right.
So let that be the case.
Yeah.
Or let him be freaking invincible and take a machine gun to the mouth, which I'm all for. That was great.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that was. I didn't think about that until you had actually brought that up, because you're sitting there and you're expecting when he gets hit by those grenades, he's just going to step back up. You're expecting that to happen, but the reality is they realized probably they have so much more movie they have to do. The movie actually should have actually just ended there.
Yeah.
With everything he does in that quarry scene,
Oh, so cool.
with everything he does there, he kills everyone.
Yeah.
That is exactly what should have happened when they first meet up. He should have won that battle. The grenades should not have knocked him back in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
After we see that scene, honestly, movie should have been over 20 minutes in.
Yeah. Yeah, he should have gotten the kid, and it would have been...
It would have been done. It would have been done. There was nothing else.
Or they would have gotten to the end battle with Satan faster.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
Which-
so there's that.
Oh,
There's that.
yeah.
But there's the issue of there's a plot and no story
Right.
to actually support the plot. So you've got all these animated flashbacks.
Yeah.
You get the animated flashbacks to Nick Cage doing a backflip with his butt out and everything,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's animated and
Which-
whatnot. And it's
David Ayer, we see you. Suicide Squad, it looked very similar.
very similar.
Didn't work.
There are a number of directors that we need to
Oh,
talk to.
well, I on my last one, I got that.
Oh, you got that?
Oh, I got
There are directors going back to a
I got
terrible Ghostwriter film and
that.
pulling
And getting ideas.
like ideas. I do not understand
got
what
it.
they are thinking.
I got that one.
It makes no sense. So going back,
right,
like Suicide
continue.
Squad,
Yeah.
pulling out a similar like animated flashback idea
Didn't work for Ghost Rider.
didn't work for
Why do you think
Ghostwriter.
it's
Why
gonna
are you
work?
doing it again?
You know what it was? DC was like, go watch Marvel films so that you can learn how to do it right. And they went and
They
watched
may have
those
legitimately
Marvel films.
done that. They may have legitimately told them, go and look at a Marvel
Yeah.
film, and then they look at that and they're like, oh.
This is what we should do.
Yeah, and then no, not at all.
No, not that
Wrong
one.
one to
Wrong
watch.
one.
You watched the wrong movie.
They're like, you told me to watch the Marvel movie with Idris
Not
Elba.
that one.
Oh, the Thor one.
The Thor one.
Yeah. Usually you don't go wrong when you take acting notes from Nick Cage.
That's very
I
true.
mean-
That's very true. Many actors have attributed their skills to Nick Cage.
I will remain silent on that one.
But in all-
Finish your point.
Going back to the point.
Yeah.
So all of the storytelling happens in these animated flashbacks. The plot then is completely disconnected from any sort of story. You just literally you know the whole plot the moment the movie starts. That's it. Most movies are there's a progression and development, but literally Idris Elba lays out in the first scene what the plot is for the entire movie. I know what's going to happen, and then that's all they do. There's no twist. There's
Yeah.
no storytelling. There's no character development. It is literally just, here's the plot. That's what we're going to do. That's the movie. See you guys.
But if you have to protect this kid for the next 24 hours, right? That's how-
I think it's more than 24 hours,
Okay,
but like
48,
it's a couple
but
days.
like
it's a couple days.
Yeah.
Couple days.
Why would you get rid of your powers a couple hours beforehand?
That is ridiculous.
Do it after you have to get your
There
on
was
that
no
day.
timeline
just wait.
on him
Just wait.
needing to get his powers gone.
Yeah, he could have just had a nice drink with Maru for that night and enjoyed the wine down in the cellars and waited till it was all over and then gotten rid of it. You're right.
Yeah.
'Cause
I didn't
he
even think
wants
about that.
keep the kid safe.
Yeah, that he did
So if
make
you wanna
that clear.
Keep the kid safe. You use the powers to keep the kid safe, which they did up to the first half of the movie.
Right,
Then,
right.
Yeah, let's just get rid of it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, that actually walks into my biggest gripe of this movie, which was the end conflict.
Yeah.
with Rourke with Satan. So I got a few things for it, but first of all, I know I called out David Ayer, but I'm going to call out J.J. Abrams now.
Again.
Ooh.
So J.J. Abrams apparently again, yeah, we just went through this.
Jay,
And
are
it
we
actually
having
goes
another?
back-
Are we going back to Star Wars? Did we
Listen,
all of a sudden decide
We
we're
are
going back to
kind
Star-
of
a
because
little bit?
Apparently, J.J. Abrams watched this movie to get his ideas for the ending of Star Wars Episode 9. Because if you think
Oh,
about it,
with all the
It
people
looks
chanting?
exactly the
Excellent.
same.
yeah, no, let's go through it. So Star Wars Episode 9, right? So we've got an old big bad whose body
Decrepit,
is failing him.
body's
Yep.
starting to wither.
Right? He's inside an ancient Colosseum with a whole bunch of hooded figures in black robes that support
Chanting.
him, chanting,
Mhm.
right? And the way he's going to win is he's going to bring someone who's blood related to him, who's younger and stronger, and he's going to transfer his powers into that younger and stronger blood relation, right?
It's the exact same
So
plot.
Satan brings his child to transfer his powers. Now, I will say that if the Emperor had just started doing like freaky yoga in the Colosseum with Rey, it probably would have worked out better for him, because that's what Satan does with his child. They're doing like this weird yoga dance.
But it goes even further than the points that you just said.
Well, no. With episode 9.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
finish
think
that
about
now.
this. So,
Yeah.
so think about this.
Yeah.
How many people go in to stop?
Yeah. Well, no, it's even better than that. So,
Well, but first, do that. Like, how many people are going in to stop the Emperor in episode 9?
1. Oh, well,
Two.
two. Right.
One goes in first.
Right.
Then the other follows in after.
Right. And Maru went in first.
Maru goes in first.
And then Ghost Rider came
And
in.
then Ghost Rider comes in.
There's another tie to Ghost Rider. So Ghost Rider is riddled with evil inside of him. And he rids the evil from him before he goes to help, just like Ben rid the dark side from him before he goes to help. And then he goes to help and needs his force powers, or needs his powers to actually complete the rescue.
Yo, JJ straight
up
up
took it.
watched Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance
Now,
and was like, I think I can do this better.
I will say he did do it better. It was still bad,
Oh,
but it was better
yes. But it's like,
than Spirit of
it
Vengeance.
really, eerily similar.
Oh, yeah.
Way too much the exact same thing.
Apart from that, though, my least favorite part of that, not the comparisons to episode 9, even though it made me relive our correction, and that hurt me.
Yeah.
But
The correction wasn't bad. The movie was bad.
Yeah.
The correction was fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Mike.
But what really bugged me was that the ceremony wasn't complete between Satan and the kid. Like, they interrupt the ceremony, right?
Yeah.
So
You see the
shadow was
coming
making its
around.
way to him,
Yep.
and it wasn't complete, right? And then Nick Cage, I'm not even going to call him Johnny Blaze, because it's Nick Cage. Nick Cage gets in trouble.
Nick Cage playing Johnny Blaze, playing Nick Cage.
Right.
I want you to think about the acting chops it takes to do that.
0. But the whole crux of Ghost Rider winning was that the child comes up and he's like, I've got the same powers as Satan, right? And he gives the power back to Ghost Rider, which is great if Satan,
Without a deal.
If Satan, well, sure, but if Satan had finished the energy, like, it would have made sense if he had finished the ceremony, but the ceremony was not finished, and so the kid should not have all of the powers of Satan in order to give it to him,
And probably
because it
not
wasn't
this
done.
ridiculous ability to be able to create the Ghost Rider.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
that's
It's a high level ability.
Right, and it's not
that's
just
level
that.
ability.
It's
It's a
the
high-level ability.
summoning
that's
of a
pairing Zarathos. Like, it's pairing Zarathos with a human host.
right.
Like,
Right.
that, you can't.
That's what I was
You
going to say.
can't
You're
do that.
taking the
Yeah.
angel that you have corrupted and
Yeah.
bringing him and manifesting him into the body,
Yeah.
and they just make it seem as though
The
it's
kid's like, I can do that.
a kid doing a flamethrower from his mouth,
Vomits fire
and that's
onto
all it had to that's all that had to happen.
Which also seems like he got more power from that when he got it from the kid than he originally did.
That's true.
Well, and maybe that's because he didn't have to have a deal with it. Maybe because he didn't give him a deal. But it doesn't matter. The kid shouldn't have been able to give it to him.
Right.
Like, that was just, it's a mess.
It just doesn't. It does not connect at all. But
No.
you're exactly right. This seems too much like episode 9, and it looks exactly the same. They're
Yeah.
doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. No good. No good. All right. Verdict time?
Verdict.
Let's give a verdict. All right.
Best movie I've ever seen.
Oh, man. No.
No,
I can't let that stand. We are here to bring justice to comic books.
That is exactly right. I cannot.
Yeah.
We cannot bring justice to the. We have to bring justice to the movie.
That's right, we have to.
despite Sir Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
You know,
He's not a knight.
Not yet.
not yet.
Yet.
Does he not have castles?
Let's
Does he not have castles?
he does. He has multiple castles that he can't afford anymore. Let's
I-
let Mike give his verdict.
No.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
So I don't think I've seen this movie since it came out. And now I remember why I haven't seen this movie since it came out. I tried to block this movie from my memory. So
That's fair.
That's good.
That is
fair.
a fair point.
That
You
is a
know,
fair point.
I have seen this. So, you know, Ghost Rider and Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance are one of those movies that are like on repeat on FX. You know, like FX is that channel where they keep these things on loop.
Yeah.
And I literally am. I've seen it so many times, but it's always been like just half on in the background, and I'm like not paying attention to it.
Sure.
Until I had to watch this. Today, I watched it again. I watched it all the way through.
Yeah.
And it felt like
The longest
an
hour and 10
eternity.
minutes. Yeah.
It was the longest, shortest superhero movie I've watched in my life. It was the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, in
Yeah.
order to correct this movie,
Yeah.
I honestly feel like they needed to make a decision. Are we making this a sequel
Right.
or are we making this a reboot?
Agreed.
If you're making it a reboot, you got to get rid of Nick Cage.
Yep.
Unfortunately,
No, that would have been the best
I would have.
decision.
I did. Sir,
I don't
you
mind.
just don't get it.
I don't mind Nick Cage,
just
but not
don't
as
get it.
not as Ghost Rider.
You don't mind Nick Cage.
I
You
don't
need to.
mind
You
Nick
need
Cage.
to respect your elders, sir. I'm disappointed. I'm gonna have to reevaluate. Our working relationship after this.
This is our last podcast.
This might. You can't understand Nick Cage at this point. I don't know where. I don't know what we're
I think-
basing
you know
our
what?
work on together.
I think it's scarier that you claim to understand him.
I understand
That's
him on a
terrifying.
deep level.
That's scary.
I mean, come on. I mean, why wouldn't I understand the man? He is at the very least he shows some of my kinship with being bipolar. At the very least.
His range in films are like you can't comprehend.
You
them.
can't. I mean, come on. He's an Oscar winner,
Yeah.
and
Ju-
he also,
and he also did jujitsu.
jujitsu. Like, I mean,
Fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch
Don't,
it.
don't
go watch it.
Don't
Don't
go
go
watch
watch
it.
it. Don't go watch it.
watch it. We're just
But
gonna- we're just
in
gonna
all seriousness,
scoop your eyeballs out with spoons after it's over. All right.
make a decision. Is this
Yep.
a reboot?
Agreed.
Is this a sequel? You have to make then decisions on cast based on that. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you write a script that ties storyline and plot together.
Yep.
If you don't have those things, I mean, it just comes down to there was no vision for this film.
Right. Agreed.
They
it was a
saw
cash
it.
grab.
It was a cash grab. They
Kind
saw it.
of.
We made some money off of Ghostwriter. Let's put less money in. Maybe we'll get the same sort of return.
and
And they did.
we made
Yeah.
some kind of money, and Nick Cage is willing to come back.
Right. And that was really it. We'll get some people who like Nick Cage from the first film.
Yeah.
They'll get him to come back, and then we'll make money. And that was really all it came down to.
Yeah.
But
and-
they had no vision for what is this movie actually about?
or
What is it doing?
or respect for the comic book mythos that
None.
it came from, right? And
None.
that's why.
Like, they
it's
weren't
here.
even willing to put enough money in to actually get characters' names.
Right,
So
apparently.
they
Or-
weren't willing to
or
get
they didn't do
rights.
the research to
Or they
know
didn't
the
do the
names.
research, yeah.
Regardless,
Yeah.
either way, this is why this movie is here. This is why we're correcting it.
Exactly.
And man, we had a good time, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
Thanks for
Mike.
having me on.
us. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great.
I don't know why you were all about this one and correcting it, but I'm glad we did.
I think it's because the fact that he blacked it out. That it was just he didn't.
He did.
He was like,
forgot.
well, no, it was just like, was it really that bad?
Yeah,
That's
Like,
probably
that's what it was. I couldn't remember like how bad it actually was.
because
Yeah.
you look at it and you're like, man, Ghost Rider's awesome.
Yeah.
Like Ghost Rider as a character is
Yeah, but
awesome.
Then you
so
see,
much potential.
So much
So much
potential.
and you see Nick Cage, and it should have just been a red flag at that point.
Thanks for listening to the Legion of Comic Correction. Don't forget to check out our other episodes streaming everywhere you listen to podcasts. We're also on the major social platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search Legion of Comic Correction.
That's right. And make sure to check out our Patreon for exclusive supporter specials at patreon.com/Legion of CC. New episodes come out every Monday.
And Wednesdays.
No, just Mondays.
And Wednesdays?
I don't think we can do Wednesdays.
We can do Wednesdays.
All right, Mondays and Wednesdays. We'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place, same Legion.